when Hamas fighters crossed Gaza's fortified borders, killed nearly 1,200 innocent Israelis, and took 251 hostages. Yes, a dark day, truly horrific, and one that left Israel reeling. Trauma, fear, grief, the country felt it all. Of course, no one can or should downplay the suffering of those families. But let's take a moment and marvel at Israel's response. 2 years of brilliant strategy under Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, a man who promised to recover hostages, destroy Hamas, and restore security.
Even before the current fugitive from justice, the Israeli Prime Minister was strengthening Hamas.
The result? Well, let's just go through them point by point. Hello and welcome. You're watching Statecraft with me, Geeta Mohan. Israel's campaign has been relentless, a 2-year war fought not just on the ground, but in the air, on television screens, and in diplomatic chambers. Netanyahu declared from day one that his war was not just a war against Hamas, but a war for Israel's future. Yet 2 years later, the future looks uncertain, scarred, and far from secure.
Zero-sum game. If you want to take any rational perspective, it's a zero-sum game. But if you want me to put myself in the Israeli shoes and to copy what did they used to say that and to declare it, yes, they accomplish a lot of their goals, which in top of these goals, of course, is to expel the Palestinian people, or at least to pave the way to expelling the Palestinian people from their homeland.
Netanyahu's government framed this war as an existential crusade, a test of Israel's resilience, strength, and moral authority. But as months turned into years, what was meant to be a show of power has turned into a showcase of exhaustion. Israel's economy has slowed, its tourism sector collapsed, and international investors have grown wary of instability. Reservists have been recalled again and again. Families live in fear of northern rockets, and the promise of restored security feels more like a slogan than reality. The war meant to secure Israel's future has instead mortgaged it in blood, in reputation, and in faith. Hostage recovery. Mission almost half-hearted. First, out of 251 hostages taken, only 148 have been returned alive. 8 rescued by the IDF and the remaining 140 released by Hamas in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians imprisoned in Israel. And of course, 48 remain, of which only 20 are thought to be alive. So yes, Netanyahu's track record in hostage recovery is, let's call it, underwhelming. One might even say it's embarrassing. A 2-year campaign, hundreds of airstrikes, and Israel still can't bring everyone home. Behind those numbers lie stories of unimaginable anguish. Families hold vigils every week, clutching photos of their loved ones, demanding answers. They've confronted ministers on live TV. The Israeli public, once unified by grief, has turned bitterly divided over the government's priorities, whether it values the lives of hostages or the illusion of victory more. Each failed rescue operation becomes another symbol of lost trust. Eliminating the Hamas? Not quite. Second priority, destroy Hamas. Oh yes, mission accomplished. If your measure of success is killing some of their leaders and a few fighters, Ismail Haniyeh, Yahya Sinwar, gone. But Hamas still exists, still operates, and still launches rockets sometimes.
So you might be able, and even that seems a bit of a stretch, to beat Hamas as a military organization completely. You might even be able to somehow get rid of them as a political organization so that Hamas itself goes away. But you would certainly then have a new generation of resistance fighters, again, quote unquote, resistance fighters in Palestine. And the Israelis are very much aware of that. I mean, it's certainly possible that, you know, the conflict in Gaza has increased their popularity with Palestinians outside of Gaza, who, of course, are not as directly affected by the violence, but who do see them as, in a sense, putting the money where their mouth is by actually fighting. Whereas point of criticism to other Palestinian factions, in particular Fatah, has been that they've been too accommodating to Israeli demands in the past.
Israel has spent billions, bombed countless civilian areas, and Hamas is still very much alive. Israeli officials claim the group has been significantly degraded, but degraded doesn't mean destroyed. Intelligence analysts say Hamas has adapted, going underground, decentralizing command, and even regaining some local support amid Gaza's destruction. The longer the war drags on, the more Hamas markets itself as the symbol of Palestinian endurance rather than terror. For Netanyahu, that's not just a military problem, it's a political disaster. Gaza, total destruction for security. Third priority, 66,000 dead and estimated 80% civilians, 169,000 injured, homes, hospitals, schools and mosques leveled. Internally displaced persons, nearly 2 million. Famine, acute. So in terms of safety for civilians, Israel has achieved absolutely nothing. But hey, at least the bombings were precise, right? Or not? Every aerial strike justified as neutralizing terror infrastructure has also erased generations of families. The world has watched as entire neighborhoods vanished in seconds. Children have become statistics, journalists targets, and aid convoys fair game. Gaza's skyline, once crowded with life, now lies buried under rubble and grief. Even within Israel, growing voices question how destroying everything can ever build security. International condemnation, a masterclass. Fourth, if your goal is to isolate your country diplomatically, well, Netanyahu deserves a medal. Arrest warrants for war crimes issued by the International Criminal Court, the United Nations calling out genocide, human rights organizations like B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights publicly denouncing Israel. And yes, South Africa even brought Israel to the International Court of Justice for violating the UN Genocide Convention. Quite the achievement in international relations. In Europe, protests fill the streets weekly. Universities cut partnerships with Israeli institutions. Artists and athletes boycott events. Even allies like the US are uneasy. Washington defends Israel in the UN, but privately warns Netanyahu about unacceptable civilian harm.
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them.
The optics are devastating. Israel, once seen as a democracy under threat, is now being viewed by many as the aggressor. Diplomacy has become damage control. Weakening Israel's enemies, mixed bag. Fifth, Netanyahu claims to have weakened Israel's enemies. Hezbollah, partially weakened, though still capable. Houthis, still launching drones and missiles. Iran, some facilities damaged, sure, but let's not kid ourselves. Iran is far from neutralized. And Syria's Bashar Assad toppled by rebels, not by Israel's hand, but convenient collateral damage for Netanyahu's narrative of regional dominance. So yes, enemies weakened, but at what cost? Gaza's civilian population bears the brunt, while strategic objectives remain incomplete. Israel's regional aggression has had unintended consequences. Iran has doubled down on its proxy networks, while Hezbollah's skirmishes along Israel's northern border have displaced tens of thousands of Israelis. Every missile fired has increased the risk of an all-out regional war. Netanyahu's security-first doctrine now looks more like security nowhere. Palestinian statehood gained momentum. Sixth, ironically, 2 years after punitive action and mass destruction have strengthened Palestinian recognition worldwide. Over 20 countries now formally recognize Palestine, including France, the UK, Spain, Australia, and Canada. Netanyahu wanted to discourage this by punishing Palestinians. Instead, he's accelerated it. Congratulations.
Among the Israeli society mean that expelling the Palestinian people from the entire homeland, from the entire historical land of Palestine. And this is because they believe that Ben Gurion, when he established the State of Israel in 1948, he did not finish the job by not expelling the entire Palestinian people at that time. And now it's time to finish the job. This is the declared position by Benjamin Netanyahu.
The diplomatic tide has shifted. Nations once hesitant now openly advocate for a two-state solution. Even American lawmakers have started questioning unconditional aid to Israel. Israel's moral isolation has turned into diplomatic isolation. The narrative has changed from Israel defending itself to Israel destroying Gaza. And for Palestinians, global sympathy, long elusive, has surged. Domestic unity, fragmented at best. 7. 2 years of war and Israel's society is split. Far-right ministers call for annexation of the West Bank. Families of hostages demand a ceasefire. Arab Israelis, veterans, and IDF families protest. More than 60% of citizens now support a ceasefire. So if Netanyahu wanted national consensus, well, he spectacularly failed. Tel Aviv's streets have turned into battlegrounds of their own, not with bombs, but with placards. Bring them home. Ceasefire now. Netanyahu resign. For a country that once prided itself on unity in crisis, the divisions are deeper than ever. Reservists refuse to serve. Former generals call for elections, and Netanyahu clings to power through political deals and emergency decrees. Infrastructure and urban destruction, world-class record. 8. Hospitals bombed, schools leveled, 90% of Gaza's homes damaged or completely destroyed. 2 million people displaced. Perhaps Israel is aiming for a Guinness World Record in demolition. Bravo again. Not exactly a legacy of peace, but the IDF has certainly left its mark. Satellite images show Gaza's urban landscape reduced to dust. Journalists describe the air thick with ash and silence. The very act of survival has become an act of defiance. Reconstruction estimates already crossed $60 billion, a figure no donor nation is eager to shoulder. Israel may have erased Hamas tunnels, but it also has erased Gaza's future. Humanitarian situation, catastrophic. 10. Acute famine has taken hundreds of lives, including children. The blockade prevents food, medicine, and fuel from reaching the people. Hospitals are overwhelmed. Civilians have become the target rather than protected populations. If the aim was to create desperation, fear, and international outrage, Netanyahu deserves a standing ovation. International relief agencies warn that Gaza is unlivable. Doctors perform surgeries without anesthesia. Parents trade rations so their children can eat. Diseases spread faster than aid. And still, trucks line up at crossings, waiting for permissions that rarely come. Israel's justification that Hamas steals aid no longer convinces the world. What everyone sees is a deliberate policy of starvation and siege. Media and information, tight grip. 11. Israel has also mastered the art of narrative control. Aid blockades justified as preventing Hamas access. Civilian deaths downplayed. International criticism dismissed. But the truth leaks. Videos circulate. Human suffering is visible. And the world notices. Israel may control the narrative domestically, but globally, credibility is dwindling. Even within Israel, censorship laws have expanded. Journalists risk prosecution for undermining morale. Foreign correspondents face restricted access to Gaza. Yet, every image that escapes, a child pulled from rubble, a doctor weeping in a ruined ward, erodes Israel's propaganda machine. The more it censors, the less believable it becomes. Peace, still a distant dream. Finally, 2 years on, no genuine resolution. The disarmament of Hamas? No. Comprehensive solution for Gaza's people? Absolutely not. Trump's 20-point plan in 2025 proposes amnesty for fighters who commit to peaceful coexistence, effectively an end to Hamas as a militia. But it's clear Israel's war has achieved neither total victory nor lasting peace.
Not only Israel, unfortunately, the international community who kept silent, of course, on the ongoing televised genocide for 2 years in a row, is normalizing the genocide. Today, we are used to the Palestinian people, or at least in Gaza, there are between 100 to 150 Palestinians whom is killed, targeted, eliminated, annihilated, finished their life. And no one is talking about them. And even if some were going to talk about them, they will going to talk about them as numbers. Just let us remember in 1986 itself, when Israel killed 2 students from Birzeit University, this erupted in a revolution worldwide, and the United Nations itself, Security Council was adopted a resolution, condemned the Israeli act at that day. But today, 150 Palestinian, 100 to 150 Palestinians used to be killed in a daily pace. And when the United Nations Security Council conducted many meetings, of course, 6 of its resolution was voted to stop this carnage. So yes, unfortunately, the carnage, the genocide, the textbook genocide became normal, not because of Israel alone, but because of the silence and of the international community. And this is the best case scenario, but again, there is a complicity from many other countries. Zero-sum game. Hamas and Israel is achieving it at the macro level to talk about peace. Zero-sum game.
West Asia stands at a crossroads. Some nations push for peace conferences, others arm themselves for what comes next. Netanyahu insists on security before diplomacy, but 2 years have proven that security without diplomacy is a mirage. Every bomb dropped in Gaza plants another seed of resentment that will sprout into future conflict. And then there's the silence, the kind that drips with complicity. The United States, Israel's unwavering ally, has blood on its hands too. American weapons, American funding, American vetoes at the UN all have fueled this war and shielded Israel from accountability. Every bomb that flattened Gaza carried a Made in USA label. And the Arab world? Quiet, cautious, calculating. Leaders issue statements, not actions. Their outrage is diplomatic, their empathy performative. Gaza burns, and the so-called guardians of the Arab cause look away, choosing stability over solidarity, silence over sacrifice. Israel has proven one thing: when it comes to military might, destruction, and global outrage, it is second to none. When it comes to solving the conflict, protecting civilians, or achieving peace, not so much. October 7, 2023 was a tragedy for Israel. But what followed, 2 years of relentless bombing, blockade, and collective punishment, has been a tragedy for Gaza, for Palestinians. The world may remember the initial attack, but history will also remember the disproportionate and indiscriminate response. And Netanyahu, with all his bravado and speeches, will be remembered as the leader who failed to turn security into safety, vengeance into justice, and war into peace.
Just 2 weeks ago, the current fugitive from justice Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared something very dangerous in the United Nations podium itself when he said that to finish the job. Finish the job in among the Israeli society means that expelling the Palestinian people from the entire homeland.
Because at the end of the day, a country can destroy buildings, topple leaders, and claim victory on the battlefield, but it cannot destroy human suffering, moral responsibility, or international scrutiny. And in Gaza, 2 years later, the human cost of Israel's achievements is written in blood, dust, and broken lives. Thank you for watching Statecraft.